jump. Crazy weekend of sports. And just a crazy week since the last time I did an episode. And if you can't tell, I got a little bit cooked. Valhalla on Sunday. Sunday major. It's a great finish. 2 Game 7s to talk about. So with that being said, we'll get straight into it. So I'll start with the PGA Championship. Scottie Scheffler, we'll start with that because I want to say last week, I did an episode towards the end of the week last week, but Scottie Scheffler, Friday morning, number 1 golfer in the world, was arrested. So essentially, like, to sum it up, it's a traffic, I mean, he wasn't obeying traffic laws. That's essentially what it was. And I don't know the backstory. I don't want to speculate on things. I don't want to like make assumptions because obviously it's legal stuff. I don't want to kind of put the wrong thing out there. But my assumption is probably Scottie may have said something he shouldn't have. I think he did say he didn't realize it was a cop, so maybe that's something with it. But whatever it may be, Scottie Scheffler arrested Friday morning. I woke up to it. I saw the notification come across, and I was like, okay, this is one heck of a joke to play on a Friday morning of a major event. But it was real. I could not believe it. And I said that was probably the most unlikely athlete that I would see in a mugshot. So it was crazy. Obviously, one of the nicest guys in the world, athletic-wise. He's an outspoken Christian. A lot of people will consider him just boring. So yeah, whatever you want to think about Scottie, but I think to everybody it was a shock. Like that would have been the last guy I would have chose out of the event to be in prison or in jail on Friday morning. But I want to make light of this because this has kind of been shrugged under it because of it's the number 1 golfer in the world getting arrested. Obviously, that's going to be a big thing that's talked about. But I want to send out some prayers to a worker that was struck by, I think it was one of the shuttles, one of the buses that was bringing people to the course and stuff. There was a worker that got hit by the bus and tragically passed away Friday morning. And that was kind of the reason for all that traffic mess with Scottie. But I just want to send my prayers, condolences to that family. And say a prayer for them because you got to think they're just going in just with the assumption that he's just going to work. It was, a middle-aged man, so prayers for them. That's somebody's father, somebody's family member, so prayers for that family. Continuing on, with the Scottie thing, and PGA sold Valhalla, that golf course, 2 years ago. Between the two of those, this could be the last time the PGA Championship was played at Valhalla. Or any major event in Louisville. This may have been the last time. So, there's a whole lot of reasons why. Another one is, that same Friday, Will Zalatoris and Cam Young had to walk to get to the course Friday to make it in time to be able to get in a range session and stuff before. It's just chaotic. For those of you that aren't from Louisville or not familiar with the area, it's on like a 3-lane... It's at least 2 lanes both directions. It's a pretty busy road, and you got to turn left into oncoming traffic. So and there's no parking in the course. You got to park elsewhere, and so the shuttle was a 15-minute ride, 10-15 minutes. It's a chaotic area. If they could buy some land and just make big parking lots, then maybe something can be worked out there. But I think you're lying to yourself if you don't say that it's a fantastic course and the fact that it always delivers. In 96, you had Mark Brooks winning. In 2000, you had Tiger with one of his most iconic moments of his career, pointing at the ball as it goes in. You get Rory in 2014. The 2008 Ryder Cup was exciting. And then you get this one, which was a phenomenal finish. You get, I think it was 3 guys within 1 stroke of the lead, 6 guys within 2 strokes of the lead. It was phenomenal going into Friday. And the guy that led it nearly the entire time, except for maybe a couple holes, ends up winning it in the end. Xander Schauffele wins the 106th PGA Championship. And he also had the lowest score to par in a major championship ever, -21. Bryson DeChambeau was the runner-up. That was electric. His putt, when that thing sunk and he got to -20 to tie Xander, with Xander, I think he had a hole or two left. That was so exciting. And I do want to talk about Bryson for a minute. I think Bryson's completely flipped the narrative on him. He was kind of known as the guy that was like, had a whole lot of haters. He was that strong, like, jock type guy that had a certain attitude about him. And he was just easy to hate for a lot of people. And I think that's flipped. He seems like a nice guy now. There's a video that went around this weekend of him leaving hole 9, tossing a ball to a young fan, like 8 or 9 years old. And an old man like jumps in front, snags it, and starts to run off. And he yells at him to get the ball back and like forcefully makes sure that kid gets the ball from that old man before he walks off and continues to play. So it was awesome. Like Bryson, he's just, it feels like he kind of faded away for a little bit, like these last couple of years, like faded away from being that guy that he once was, and he's come back now and he's super likable. He was getting fired up, chip-ins, all the stuff, and like just him flexing after some putts. Like, he's awesome to watch. Whether you love him or hate him, you got to say he's exciting, and I think he's good for the game. But yeah, like I said, Bryson, that putt that he made to tie it, that was an electric putt. Hole 18 it looked like half the world sitting at hole 18, so that was cool. But then Xander comes back on that hole 18. And this is why I think it's such a phenomenal course, because Xander's tee shot on 18 had him in a horrible situation. Feet in the bunker, ball above him, about at his kneecaps. And that's his shot from like, I don't remember what it was, probably 280, 290 out. And that's his shot. But that course makes that possible to where he can get from that spot to where he can get to a position to be up and down for birdie for the win. So that's why I think it's so exciting, is like you're never out of it. Like there was a lot of golf nerds on Twitter that were like, I think the majors should always have courses that, contest the players, and if it's a bad shot, then you get what you deserve for it, and like all this stuff. Like, I think it's fun. Like the point of sports is to be entertaining, and you get that. Yeah, I mean it was awesome. Xander got out of that with his feet in the bunker, gets up and down for birdie, and it was a dramatic putt too, like lips in. So that was awesome, and I mean Xander's got a chance to be one of the greats. So it was cool to see that. I got to see it in person. So seeing Xander that last day, it was pretty cool because it had gotten close there. Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa a little bit earlier in the tournament, but like there was a few different guys that it looked like could do something. Shane Lowry played really well, but it was fun. And like I said, they kind of dominated that course. It was the lowest combined score to par by field in PGA Championship history. These are the top 3. In third place, 2018, I think it's Bellarive, I think that's how it's pronounced, was plus 59. Plus 59 overall. That field, that was their overall score. Plus 59 for third place. Second place, 1995 Riviera, plus 40. And then you get to 2024 Valhalla, minus 214. It's crazy what they were able to do to this course. And I mean, what day was it? Was it Friday? Friday was not great weather, but the other day is perfect weather. And, I mean, the course played well. So, it was amazing. And like I said in the last one, I got to meet a lot of the guys when I went to a practice round. And Valhalla always delivers. I argue with the wall on that one. That course, they need to somehow figure out how to get more PGA championships there and stuff. So it was awesome. One thing I want to note, Max Homa, one of my favorite players on tour, he had a awesome caption after the weekend. He said, "Frustrating week in Kentucky. Lost to a guy who was literally in jail Friday morning. Tough look for me. The journey continues into Fort Worth next week." That's awesome. That's the most Max Homa caption I could have thought of. So, shout out to Max. I'd love to see him get over the hump and get him a major here soon. But love that guy, Max. Now to the NBA playoffs. We will. I mean, in the last one, the Celtics had already moved on. I believe. I think it was. I want to say it was that night they ended up winning, or maybe the night after or something. They got done with their series quick. We'll just put it that way. We'll talk about the game that went to, or the series that went to 6 first. The Mavericks knock off the Thunder in 6 games. It was one heck of a comeback. Down 17 with 8 minutes left in the third. Against all odds. Obviously at home, so that helps a little bit. That crowd definitely backed them a little bit there towards the end. But that Dallas crowd's underrated. I think that it gets a loud pop when certain things happen in there. So you get the Mavericks back in the Western Conference Finals, and for the second time in 3 years. So I think it's awesome. I mean, you're getting Luka. You're getting one of those guys that, like, young in their career right now, trying to build their legacy, and he's back for the second time in 3 years. Different team, obviously. One thing I want to note, the Kyrie trade. It was graded a D. It was kind of used goods or whatever when that trade happened. It was kind of... Kyrie was somewhat written off at that point. And some things... It didn't look like a great trade at the time. I think it was him and Markieff Morris for, like, Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't remember who else was in it. But at the time, it was graded a D. And look what it's done now. It was a phenomenal move. And, I mean, I'm pretty sure that gave up some picks, too. So it seemed like it was a little bit risky throwing away picks until, like, 2030. But if you're getting this out of it, it doesn't matter. And another move that I want to note, PGA Washington. He brought over elite defense and great shooting. In this whole series, he played elite defense. Like, in that Game 6, there were times he was just locking down Shea. And it seemed like he was the only one that could do it. So I think it's been awesome to see for PJ. But and he was kind of written off from his last team, too. So, like, seeing PJ standing on business at the end of this game and in that Clippers series, obviously it was a banged-up Clippers games with no Kawhi, but they're playing who's in front of them, and I think it's been amazing to see what the Mavericks have done. But yeah, the Kyrie trade and the PJ Washington trade are panning out. We'll just say that. One guy I want to talk about, Derek Jones Jr. What a series out of that man. He went from being a guy that I thought of as just a dunker to where he was at the Heat at that time. Then he goes to the Bulls, develops his game a little bit more. And now he's a very, very, very respectable shooter and much more than just a dunker. Like, obviously he can still throw down some crazy dunks anytime you need it. But, I mean, what a series out of him. Defensively, offensively, like, he's just a freak athlete and he can shoot the heck out of the ball now. So, it was really cool to see Derek Jones Jr. play how he did. And one thing with the Kyrie trade that I forgot to note, it was interesting because they traded for him last season. They ended up tanking towards the end of that year because they would rather be in the NBA draft lottery than they would in the play-in game. And what did they do with that pick? They picked up a guy by the name of Derek Lively. And Derek Lively in this Game 6 had 15 rebounds, 4 of them offensive. So that pick ended up working out, and he fits perfect. That Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, obviously they'll have their hands full in this next series. But what a series out of those guys. Like, I think that was one of the big differences. I mean, I've got a few friends that are Thunder fan, and the whole year it was talks of, like, the bigs. The bigs is going to be the issue in the long run, and that's what it was. And if you have Derek Lively playing the way that he did, I mean, you had the Hacko Lively numerous times, and he would hit the free throws. So he was just clutch. And yeah, I think it's just interesting. That Kyrie trade ended up working out in the long run, but they tanked at the beginning of it too, and got a pick that worked out very well too. So I think it's awesome to see how it's worked out in Dallas. And I mean, this is Jason Kidd's best coaching year by far. He's had his faults and stuff, but it's been cool to see these Mavericks this year. And it's crazy I made it this far without mentioning Luka, really. In this Game 6, he had 29, 10, and 10. I know he had some turnovers, but the way he played in this game, the turnovers didn't necessarily matter. Like, that comeback was him and Kyrie just going off. Like, Luka played outstanding. I mean, really, this entire series. I obviously one of the best players in the world, but it's so awesome to watch him play, hitting daggers there late in the game, and just completely taking over games whenever he feels like it seems like. And Kyrie in the second half, he'd been doing it a little bit this playoffs already, where he's just like, it feels like he's just like testing waters there in the first half, and then second half comes around, he just balls out. But he balled out in the second half of this one. He still hasn't played like anything near his best yet. So I think that's the scary thing if you're the Timberwolves, because like he hasn't done anything yet compared to what Kyrie can do. He's hinted at it, but he's got a whole lot more he can end up accomplishing. But I do want to go and note what a year for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The youngest team to ever get a 1 seed, the youngest team to ever win a playoff series. What a bright future. They had 2 guys named. Chet was first team all rookie, and then Cason Wallace was second team all rookie. Like, both of those guys played really well in this series also. I mean, Cason didn't play that well in Game 6, but overall, both those guys played great in this series and played great this year. And like I said, youngest team. Like, the only move they made was picking up Gordon Hayward, and he ended up not even scoring in the postseason. So I think if they make a few of the right moves with some proven, I think they could use another. Obviously, they could use a big. I think that's the number one priority, is just getting a big somehow, some way, and figuring that out. I know there's the talk of the KD trade and stuff, which that'd be cool for somebody making like a documentary later on. But it could work. I don't want to write that off or anything, but I just think if you've got this team, if you add the one missing piece, could get you over the hump, and you could be an NBA champion here in years to come. So, what a year for the Thunder, though. And if you're a Thunder fan, you have no choice but to. I mean, it's like they're saying, like, don't be sad it's over, be happy it happened. But be happy it happened, and you have the next 10 years of these guys playing basketball, 10 plus years. So you got to be excited if you're a Thunder fan for what the future holds. Then you get the Indiana Pacers. They shoot 67% and knock off the New York Knicks. 67% playoff record, and they're headed to the Eastern Conference Finals. And if you would have told anybody to look at that bottom part of that bracket, I think it was Kenny Beecham that had pointed this out, where it was the Bucks versus Pacers, Sixers versus Knicks. You get Joel Embiid back there. You get Giannis and Dame, even though Giannis ended up not playing. Nobody would have picked the Pacers to come out of that little part there at the end, at the bottom of that bracket, over the Knicks, Bucks, and Sixers. Nobody would have picked them. So I think it was Kenny Beecham that said that. He said like 99% of people would have picked somebody out of those other 3. And the Pacers do it. It's been awesome to watch them. Fun team. I mean, they scored 130. Like, they've just been scoring. It felt like early on in the year, they were the talk. It was the Carlisle's Pacers. Halliburton putting up crazy numbers, all this stuff. They're scoring 150, like, and it ended up working out. Like, it's been awesome to watch. Obviously, we'll reference a few injuries, but you can't help but play who's in front of you. So if you're a Pacers fan, don't let anybody talk you out of the like Eastern Conference Finals saying it's Mickey Mouse because of all the injuries. You're playing who's in front of you. So I love it. I love that these this Pacers team. I mean, they've been fun. So I love that they're headed there. But one injury that did happen in this game, which it was over. At this point, it felt like Jalen Brunson's injury, fractured hand. He ended up leaving and not coming back. But yeah, like I said, it felt like it was about over at that point. And one thing that's been the topic of discussion is Tyrese Halliburton's hoodie that he wore after this game. It had the Reggie Miller choke thing. I don't think people were giving him a hard time because they said he should have wore it in if he was going to wear that out. I mean, the dude did bring the hoodie. I think it's fine. I mean, I don't really. People called him a coward for it, but I think it's fine that he wore it after. I think it's funny. The trash talk, the Hicks versus Knicks, I love it. But I will say it was definitely not a choke out of the Knicks, though, with the injuries and stuff. So that's out of context. But I do love the fact that he brought up the most iconic picture in Pacers history, threw that on a hoodie, and then wore that into the press conference to ruffle a few feathers. And I think I'd seen somebody on Twitter talk about, like, all these Knicks fans have a whole lot of time to think of what they're going to tweet about that hoodie while they're sitting on their couch at home and not watching their team play. But I do want to note a few of the injuries that the Knicks just had this season, which you can blame it on Tibbs if you want. I think it's just unfortunate. I don't think it's necessarily Tibbs. Like, maybe one of them is, but, like, I don't know. So this season alone, OG Anunoby, hamstring. Bojan Bogdanovic, foot and his wrist. Jalen Brunson, his hand. Julius Randle, shoulder. Mitchell Robinson, ankle. All this season. That's just bad luck. But there's nothing you can do about it. I do want to talk about the Knicks for a minute, though, as I did with the Thunder. This is my favorite Knicks team, Knicks season of my life. Favorite Knicks everything of my life. I was a little young for the mellow Knicks days. Like, those were fun. But this Knicks season was awesome. What a ride. You get the Villanova Knicks teaming up again, and this season it panned out, and it worked. They get a 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they end up winning that series against Philly where they played college ball. It's been awesome. Jalen Brunson blossomed this season, became a star. And then he's not even just a good NBA player anymore. He's a legit star. And you got to be excited for what the future holds for him. Josh Hart became a legend, especially in this playoffs, like not even going out of games. What a legend he became. And this team, man, like they fully embraced the New York like background, and they wore it proudly. And man, like I just think the NBA is truthfully just better when the Knicks are good. Like, it just feels like the NBA is in a much better place, ratings wise. Like, it's just more fun to watch when the Knicks are good. And I mean that's true about a few teams, but definitely the Knicks. When the Knicks are good, it's awesome. Next series, Nuggets, Timberwolves. This was one of the craziest Game 7s I've ever seen in my life. This was, you're talking the defending champions on their home court in Game 7, up 20 in the second half. The Timberwolves ended up winning by 8, 98-90. Jamal Murray, great first half, not a great second half, partially because Anthony Edwards locked in and said he's going to get in his bag, and he just locked down. I mean, a big part of why Jamal had a bad second half was Anthony Edwards. And on the topic of Ant, not a great first half. I mean, you can let that stat line fool you. Like, obviously, shooting-wise, he was off. He could not buy anything. I think he was like 6 or 8 for 24 or something. He was off. There's no way around that. You can't argue that at all. But that resulted in him, which I think is another layer of what makes a great player great, is what you can do without just going out and scoring 40. Because you can tell, going into this game, he was like, all right, I'm up next. I'm about to be the face of the NBA. Watch me go off this Game 7. I'm going to take over. And that's not what happened. So, in that second half, he comes out and he's like, all right, I'm going to lock down on defense. I'm going to get my teammates open. I'm going to keep utilizing the double teams to make better passes, make better plays, get my teammates shots. And it all worked to perfection. Like I said, down 20 in the second half, and they end up making the comeback. And it's a huge part to Ant. Because Ant, it's crazy that he's hit this point of his career where he doesn't have to score a whole lot, and he's still by far the best player on the court. Well, in this game, I won't say by far best player on the court. Jokic was on the court. So, I won't say by far, but he was the best player on the court in that second half, and it was without scoring. It was crazy. The lockdown, I mean, it felt like, I bet Nuggets fans couldn't sleep last night with nightmares of Anthony Edwards picking somebody at the top of the key and going and dunking it. But, I mean, he was balling, like, in every sense of the word. It was crazy. And the one point that you knew it was over, and if you've watched the playoffs the last couple of years, you've seen it happen to the Lakers from the Nuggets. It happened to the Nuggets from the T-Wolves. The Rudy Gobert dagger. dude turned into Dirk for a minute. He hit like a 1 foot fadeaway. Like, it looked so uncomfortable, and it just dropped straight in. It was like almost a 3-pointer. That was the point where you were like, all right, yep, that'll do it. Basketball gods are on their side, and it is over. So that was a pretty funny thing to see out of Rudy. He's going to mess around and hit some 3 here soon or something. But, yeah, as I said, the 20-point second-half comeback. It was the biggest halftime comeback in Game 7 history, 15 points. And it felt like maybe this is just like me being like, I mean, it's always 2020 when you look back at it. But it did feel like at that time they kept saying it, and you were like, okay, well, this is ironic how much they've let us know that 15 would break the record for the most points for a comeback at halftime. So it was, it just felt a little bit weird. They kept saying it, like they probably said it 5 times straight out of the halftime break, just to make sure we knew, and then the comeback happened. But 6th consecutive season where the reigning champs were eliminated before the conference finals. It's crazy. It did feel like this was just. It felt like this was going to be the year of the repeats with the Chiefs, UConn, and then the Nuggets. Like, it felt like nobody was getting in the Nuggets' way. And then there they go. I mean, I agree with what Nikola Jokic said. They were built to beat the Nuggets. That's what that team was. So it was a super fun series, amazing game. After that, Game 7 of the Knicks-Pacers wasn't great. This one delivered late Sunday night, so it was awesome. And then Anthony Edwards had a phenomenal post-game show with NBA, Inside the NBA, where Charles Barkley said he hadn't been to Minnesota in 20 years. And Anthony Edwards said, bring you A-Ward.
Okay, I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
Hey,
bring your ass.
That was iconic. That's already been thrown on, like, with freaking shirts and stuff. And I'm sure Minnesotians are eating that up. But the Cat and Ant post-game interview was phenomenal, where the guy, some reporter, I'll throw it in the video.
This is for either one of you guys. And usually in NBA history, it says you have to lose and lose big before you win. What is it about this team that says
we lost last year?
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams usually.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years. Shit.
God damn. How much more we got to lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
Been losing for 20 years.
I mean, that's just the truth, dog.
But some reporter essentially was just saying, like, you need to lose at bigger stages before you can get over that hump and end up winning. He was like, bro, we've been losing forever. Like, how much do you want us to lose? And it was just funny. But like I said, I'll throw that in the video. And then I want to note the Michael Malone press conference. This guy, I don't think there's anybody in sports that I hate. I'm trying to think. I don't. Not right now. There's not anybody in sports that I hate. Michael Malone's getting close. This guy, he's been talked about as classy, and I think eventually, just from what everybody has said, I mean, Legler said it on ESPN today. Stephen A. has said it. They truly believe that he will apologize for how he acted. His post-game interview in that press conference, he was asked, like, some type of question, and he blew it off and said, like, dumb A question. Like, he reacted with some it was just the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. You can look it up on your own. If you just type in Michael Malone press conference, it'll pop up. But this guy, he was the one cheesing and making a whole lot of fun anytime somebody bring up the Lakers and stuff last year. And now he's going to act like this when his team loses. It's just stupid. Like, he's winning without class and he's losing without class. It's just hard to root for a guy like that. I mean, I hope he comes out and apologizes about it, but maybe he won't. We'll see. But it was just a very, very bad look on him. We'll just put it that way. But like I said, 6th straight year of the reigning champs going out before their conference finals, and it'll be a new champion this year, which is going to be awesome. So it's down to the Wolves, Mavs, Celtics, and Pacers. And I think all of them would be fun. Obviously, the overwhelming favorite right now is the Celtics, just because they're probably heavily favored over the Pacers, I would imagine. But I think the Pacers could scare some people. I think it's crazy to write off the Pacers just because of who they're going against. Kristaps is out the first 2 games, but I don't think it's crazy. Like, one game of the Celtics being cold, like apparently game 2s they struggle. So maybe if they can steal that game 2, they haven't lost at home this postseason in Indy. So I don't think it's crazy to give them a shot in this series. But on the other side, it seems like it's going to be a bloodbath. That series is going to be phenomenal. Wolves, Mavs, just 2 of the best young teams in the league. And, obviously both have been crafted in certain ways, but I think it's going to be pretty awesome. And it's kind of funny because it's like the Eastern Conference was always known for the longest time as, like, the defensive, like, tough basketball. And then the Western was, like, the flashy, throw up a whole lot of threes, make points. And now it's just flipped. Like, the Eastern Conference Finals is going to be a whole lot more scoring, a whole lot more, like, this and that. And then the Western Conference will be defense, lockdown, everything like that. But I think it's going to be exciting. Like, okay, if I had to make a prediction right now, I would say Wolves, Celtics, both in 7. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'd say both in 7. That would be my guess. Maybe one of them in 6. I'm thinking maybe Wolves in 6. I don't know. But we'll see. I do think it'll be Wolves and Celtics. And I think the Celtics will probably finally get it done. As long as Kristaps will stay healthy, I'll say the Celtics get it done this year. Before I wrap up, I want to note this little thing. I don't know if I've ever talked about NASCAR on this show. Maybe me and Cade did back in the day. But NASCAR, it made a lot of headlines. There was a fight after, I don't even know what this was. I think it was some type of all-star race or something. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch. And I know enough because my dad is a huge NASCAR fan. I know enough about these guys that the Busch guys, not a lot of, you either love them or hate them. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I feel like I don't know a whole lot about. I just feel like I remember when he came into the like league or whatever. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets wrecked early in this race, and he goes on, and it's about 2 hours that this race goes on. And he says, like, in his interview right after he gets wrecked and he's out of the race or something, he says, like, I'll be waiting for him when he gets done. And then nobody thinks to stop that at all. So he waits, like, 2 hours and confronts Kyle Busch, and they sit there and they're talking, and it doesn't even, like, necessarily escalate to any point, but, like, they're just sitting there talking. Obviously, it's a little heated, but, like, nothing too crazy. And then out of nowhere, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. just throws a punch, throws a right hook at him, and it just escalates like crazy. Guys falling over tires, like it was wild. Like, one of the reporters got struck too, so it was crazy. It definitely made some headlines, and nothing beats a good NASCAR fight. Like, you get hockey fights and stuff, but like a NASCAR fight, you don't expect it. So those are pretty fun anytime those happen. And usually you get like, I mean, you get heated arguments and stuff, but you don't get like guys swinging. Ricky just went all in. He swung. So I thought that was super cool, and that made some headlines and stuff. But other than that, I think that'll just about do it for this episode. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of The Jump. And for the night I'm filming this, there's no basketball, no NBA playoffs. There's some WNBA on, but for the NBA playoffs, it's the one off night, and then every other night there is an NBA playoffs game. And it's going to be phenomenal. It's every other night for the next, I guess, as long as the series go. So, I mean, it's at least 8 days we'll get straight basketball. So I'm excited for it. So you all enjoy that, and we'll be back next week on this channel to talk and break down a little ball and talk about it. So thank you once again. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. Have a great rest of the week, and peace.